Cancel culture is rampant right now in the United States. When is it appropriate? When does it go too far? All that and more. It's the Brave Talk Show.
I have some questions for you. Hey, brave girl, how you do the things that you do?
Hey everyone, welcome to the Brave Talk Show, the show for brave women craving the connection that comes with real conversations about the concerns and TMI details we face every day. I'm Robin.
I'm Brittany.
I'm Teresa.
And I'm Vanessa. Be sure to subscribe to join our weekly conversations.
Today we're talking about cancel culture.
Robin, can you give us a little disclaimer first, because we are about to get deep.
We are going to be exactly what our name is. We're going to be brave. We're not censoring ourselves. We're not going to filter. We're going to say our true, brave, honest opinions. And we hope that you enjoy it, but we also hope that you don't cancel us, because that may not be your experience.
Yeah. You know, I would agree, and it seems like even though like we all kind of agreed somewhat on that Mr. Potato Head topic, like we don't always agree. I mean, even in our prior conversations preparing for this show, like we've already had conversations where we realized like, wow, like we are on different sides of some of these topics that we're planning on discussing. And we don't plan on canceling each other. Like our goal, I think, for this show is, hey, we can talk, we can have different opinions, we might disagree, but like let's actually talk to learn from each other and better understand each other's perspective, and then we'll go our own ways and make our own decisions.
Yeah, there doesn't have to be hate. Just because we don't disagree, I can respect that decision or your choice and my choice, and we can still get along and
and right now
agree.
that's what we're missing. We're missing that we're all not the same, you know, and we are going to have different opinions. And that's what makes the world so beautiful, because we're all so different. So we have to welcome this diversity when it comes to who we are as a person and our opinions. So I think we just need to, you know,
I think cancel culture has come a long way. Vanessa, in a second, you're going to tell us how it got started, right? What the point was. But I think over time it's changed, and people have started using it as a political weapon to shame or to make people be submissive. And that's where it doesn't do any good. And that's where we need to talk, we're going to talk about where's the line. But Vanessa, how did it get started? Tell us all about that.
So cancel culture started with the Me Too movement, when there was that rape culture in Hollywood. Well, it's everywhere, but it was brought to light by Hollywood people, where when they were young, they were raped, they were drugged. And so the culture was like, we need to cancel this culture. Like, it's not okay that even if women go in a workforce, workplace, that they feel like they have to be violated in order to get to the next level. For them to compete with men, they were being sexually assaulted. So the movement was just, let's cancel that culture. And I think for that culture, that was right, because it was wrong. You know, what was happening needed to be changed. But then it's every time, it just got taking it to another perspective. And I think where I sit with it is, there's some stuff I feel like I've canceled. Have you guys canceled anything?
You know, I got real close to canceling Netflix when the Cuties movie came out. Yeah, I got real close. I was pretty upset by that. I think the way reason why we didn't in the end is because there was still so much other good media that Netflix is producing that does align with our values, that we ultimately decided not to. But I did consider it. I did consider it.
I feel like with cancel culture, there's like this moral obligation now, like because you didn't cancel Netflix and Cuties, like you're morally wrong. Like I felt the same pressure, like I need to cancel Netflix because this is morally not okay. Did you guys feel that pressure?
Yeah, and I think you just brought a great point. Like, it's a two-side. If you don't do it, you shame. You do it, then you're ashamed. So it's like, where is the line? Like for me, I'm a person that I love to do research and I do background. So if I see everybody posting everything, I need to go find out for myself. So even though the show was like hard, but like I watched it and then getting the understanding like, oh, is it appropriate for a little girl to be shaking their butt? No. But it was this little girl's story and how she grew up, you know? So it's like, okay, that I understand that. Like, I'm not going to cancel it because I'm going to do the research. So I think sometimes we have to do the research too before we like go ahead and just jump on this wagon because it's trending. That's the thing.
Right.
But I don't know. I hate the word cancel because it sounds so like, I don't think we should cancel people. Like, there's a few people that have been canceled that I'm like, I'm not gonna name names.
Yeah, like the rape culture and human trafficking, like all of that. That was a great place for it to originate.
It's true. And then I think like some stuff, like me being a Black woman, I don't put up with racism. Like I feel like anything, like if it's offensive, where I have to explain to my kids, like, yeah, because of your skin color, something like, then I don't want that in my home, because I don't want my kids to ever feel like the value of who they are. So anything that I feel like that bring that aspect of us, I want to educate my kids. Like, you got to run into those things. It's out there. There's people out there that have those mentalities. You just have to learn how to maneuver to it and not pay attention to it. So if it doesn't bring me that comfort and peace, like, I don't want it in my home, you know? And I think that's an everything, you know?
I think that's always been what's available to us. Like, we're all individuals, and we all have, I call it agency, to make our own choices and establish our own boundaries. And so I think instead of a cancel culture, you know, maybe canceling some significant things like the rape culture and that kind of thing with the Me Too movement is great. But on a day-to-day basis where we're using it as a political weapon to shame and make people submissive, I think it would be better to hold accountability, or to make people accountable, but then to teach them, to educate them, and then have our own boundaries. If there's something that I don't feel comfortable with, instead of rallying around and getting the troops and everybody else in my neighborhood to cancel them as well because I'm so upset about it, why not just me have boundaries? Like, there are people I don't follow on Instagram, and there are companies that I don't support because I have personal boundaries. And I think that's one of the things that's missing right now with cancel culture, is we're trying to get everybody rallied up and to join our side. And if they don't join our side, then the shame comes, right? If I didn't cancel Netflix, then I feel shame because the culture's all surrounding it, where it's like, I have personal boundaries. I'm not going to watch Netflix anymore, but I don't need to rally and get everybody to cancel Netflix.
I love that.
I love that point. Because it is what it is. Because people go on there and they're like, we're canceling this, jump on this. And a lot of people are jumping on it, and they don't even know what they're jumping on sometimes. It's like, oh, like Mr. Potato Head, like, I wasn't aware Mr. Potato is canceled, so I'm not going to be like, yes, we should cancel it, because I didn't know the aspect behind it. Why? You know, so I love that agency, that we make our own decision in our own.
Well, here's a quote too. Keith Hampton, he's a professor of media at Michigan State University. He said that it contributes to the polarization of American society, but it doesn't lead to changes of opinion. And I think that's really important. It leads to polarization, which our country is so polarized right now. Our whole world is polarized, right? And this cancel culture, they've done studies, it actually doesn't change opinions. That's a fact. It just polarizes us. It doesn't connect us. It doesn't change opinions. So what good is it?
Yeah, it reminds me of, like, who was that? There's a few, like, recent, like, things that have happened. I mean, we got the Mr. Potato Head, but what you're talking about reminds me of, you know, Gina Carano. So that was just recently on the nose.
Right?
Yeah, from The Mandalorian. So she said something, I don't know if she said it on Twitter or where she said it, but she said something to the effect of that she felt like the way that the left has treated the right is similar is similar to the way like the Nazis treated the Jews, as far as like demonizing them. And then Disney dropped her from Mandalorian for saying that. That's what the talk is. That's what people are saying. Like, she was canceled because of that. And then now you've got like some organizations that are going to help support her and get like a show for her to show that we're not going to put up with cancel culture. But like that, I think, is an example. If that indeed it truly happened, like we're seeing exactly what you're talking about. Like, she had this opinion, and yet, do you think that opinion's going to change? As a matter of fact, when you fire somebody for saying that, doesn't that only prove her what she's talking about?
Right. They just proved it's cancel culture. Like, you say something that we don't like, I'm going to cancel you. And like, that was her opinion, right? It doesn't have to be a fact. But how are we just canceling people because you have an opinion? Like, if you truly felt that the left is treating the right and similar to X, Y, and Z, that's your truth. Mm-hmm. I can listen, but I shouldn't have to cancel you. I don't have to agree.
Yeah. I think there's so many sides. When I first started, I feel like there's so many things that come from it. First of all, I feel like I hate the whole divisiveness. I don't know who started with the left, the right. Everything now is a label. If you're not a Republican, then you're in the left. You're in the right. Like, me, I feel like I'm just a person. If I felt like if I feel like I agree with the right and their policy, then yes. If I'm weird with the left and I like that, like, I shouldn't be put in a label. So I think I see what she was coming from, but it's just like, when you think of the Jews, like, she shouldn't have been canceled. Give her the opportunity to educate herself and to be like, you know what?
Right.
This is the point I was trying to make. Like, I feel like we need to give people an opportunity. I don't think canceling people just for their opinion is like, I feel like we need to give people like that idea to be like, you know what? I said this. Let me just kind of tell you what I was trying to say,
Maybe in a
because
different
we
way.
all see it differently.
Yeah.
You know, as we're sitting here, we all kind of agree, like, yeah. But I think the Jews is also a sensitive subject. You know what I mean? I think his name is Emmanuel Archer. He does that uncomfortable conversation, and he said something the other day. He said, history is to be remembered, and some history are meant to be celebrated. You know, and some of history for some people, when you bring something up like that, it can cut a little bit to compare. And for somebody that is on the left, that's a cut to be like the Nazi. Because when we think of the Nazi,
Yeah.
it's not a pretty.
No,
Nobody
everybody,
talks about
yeah.
that. So when you're comparing a group of people to a time that was really kind of like not a good time, it sits with people. But instead of being like, don't learn, don't we're done with you, but it's to be like, what can we do? Because Miles, I don't know if you guys follow basketball player for the NBA, big high contract, right? He's playing a video game, said something about Jews too. Like, it was like very bad, but somebody had recorded it, put it out there. And the NBA, at first he was gonna lose his freaking $1 million contract, his livelihood forever. You know, once you get canceled,
Yeah.
you can't come
Yeah,
back
it's
from this
over,
stuff.
yeah.
But one thing that I was happy with the NBA, what he does, first he took accountability. He's just like, you know what? Yes, that time is not a time I should refer to. And then he apologized to that community, like, I need to do better. I didn't know that it was offensive, so I'm gonna learn. And I really am sincerely like, I will do. So, and then instead of losing his job, the NBA is like, we understand people make mistakes. You suspended for a week, because that's his job. He's representing. When people are in that high of a stand, like the Madeleine, she can't just go out and say whatever you want, because you are representing Disney. So Disney does have the right to be like, you're a face. And you're not, like, if I'm speaking for Brave, I'm not going to go around and be like, knowing don't believe in something, and I'm like, yeah, I'm a host of the Brave, and this is, you know what I mean? This is who
what
I
the Brave
am.
stands for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you
But I
have
don't
to
think
make
that
sure.
because you work for somebody, then you can't say your own feelings. Like,
Yeah. That's kind of my thoughts too.
Yeah.
It's like there's some things with like for example, the Brave talk show, right? Like I know as a overall what our talk show represents and what we value. There are some things that I am very passionate about that may not be like what the Brave show
The rest
stands
of us,
for,
yeah.
but I would like
Yeah.
on my personal profile to be able to talk about those things.
And not be
You know what I mean?
canceled.
And not be canceled because I'm on the Brave show. I feel like what happens is it productizes these people. And they're no longer people anymore. Now they're just products of this large organization that has so much power that they can just, okay, you're done. And there's nothing that you can do about
and I
it.
agree with that. I don't think that should be it, but that's once again, that's the
It's
culture
the
of
way
it.
that-
Right,
Because when you
yeah.
think of celebrities, they don't fall into some people don't see them as normal people. So do we see them as normal people? Do we see them as normal people when they want to give their opinion? Because sometimes when celebrity like LeBron James want to give an opinion, people say, shut up, you're an athlete, you shouldn't be talking about politics. But then now he's somebody else talking about politics, and he's like, give her freedom, she should talk about whatever she wants. So how do we see so that's how earlier I think we said something, we're like, freedom, let people speak. People should have freedom of speech. People should have freedom to do everything. But if we ask right now, like, should people have freedom to do abortion? We're like, no. So when does the balance of freedom becomes where we hold people accountable?
That's so hard.
So when I think of like movie stars and so forth, because I'm one of those people that sometimes I'm like, dude, stay in your lane. You are an actor.
I'm opposite.
But I certainly don't cancel them. But one of the things I think frustrates me is like on your Twitter, on your accounts, like that's your thing. You have your opinion. What I don't like is when the media will elevate this celebrity's opinion about something that isn't in their lane, and the media will help like elevate it and get that message out because it aligns with whatever the media wants. And that's when I get frustrated. It's like, no, like that person's famous for this. Media should elevate them for that. Let him do his own marketing for his own or her own like opinions on this or that on their own profile and so forth. But to give them a platform, to me, seems to suggest that because they're famous, therefore they have an opinion that we should all listen to. And
But
I
you
just
see-
disagree with
so
that.
this is how you see now how it's confusing, because we just said earlier, she's a person. She should be able to say whatever she wants.
On her own profile.
Yeah, but she's also a representation. Like, I think the way we look at all of us, I don't know, for me, I can see when you see the celebrities, the athlete, we hold them to a different level, right? We hold them to a different platform. We shouldn't, because they're also human. They're part of this country. They should have an opinion just like we are. They do vote. They do pay taxes. They do have that right. Now, we can't control how the media, like we realize that how people do things, even with cancel culture. Like, I can choose still not to be participation of the cancel culture. We can't control how other people do their things. All we can control is how we react to it and how we choose to educate it in our home. Because LeBron James can stand in there and say something, it's just like, yeah, the media is elevating it, but I am choosing not to be that. You know what I mean? Oh, they're going to cancel her. I am choosing not to cancel this person. It's still or I think in our Instagram, somebody said, it's not going to be about choice anymore. Everybody's going to have to cancel people. Like, I don't agree with that. I'm not going to cancel something if I don't believe that needs to be canceled. I still need that freedom.
Here's what I think. There's a term as I was researching this called calling in. So calling out is just bringing attention to something somebody said, calling them out on it, pointing it out that it's wrong, and canceling them. But if you call in, that means you're holding them accountable for it. You're pointing attention, you're drawing attention to what they said, and then you're educating them and teaching them why it was wrong. So, like, Vanessa, if I said something racist, it would be completely innocent on my part, where it was just naive that I didn't realize it, because I am completely not racist.
Yeah.
But if I said something, I would hope that you would call me in and say, hey, Britt, what you just said, that actually is not so good.
Oh yeah, I'm all for
and
that.
then give compassion and educate and hold me accountable, but don't cancel me. Don't cancel somebody
out
for one time they said something. If they continue to do it, then yeah, use your personal boundaries and cancel them. But because somebody said a quote one time, you know what I mean? Educate them, teach them, let them learn, hold them accountable, call them in, but don't cancel them.
And I love that. And I think what we can even go further and do, I think one thing that I feel like I have a pet peeve when it comes to social media, like I have friends sometimes that post a lot of stuff or quote with something, and I'm like, do you know what that means? And they're like, no, somebody posted and I just reposted because it sounds good. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, now with the culture we are in, we have to be very like intentional in what we're doing. So if I'm gonna, like if I see something, I'm like, oh, Brittany, like that doesn't sound good. Like I will reach out just the same. Like if you see something, like I would hope that as friendship, especially people in your community, if you can see that they're doing something that's hurting you, there's a reason they're your friends. So yeah, reach out to that person. Like I've seen posts where people are like posting people texts and all this stuff, and I'm just
oh my gosh, sharing all that drama.
Yeah, all that conversation.
No.
I'm just like, why would you do that to somebody? Maybe just that conversation. Then if you did reach out and they're like, no, this is a high feeling, and they can continue doing it, then I understand
you can set
that.
a boundary.
Yes, but it's like you said, talking, having that conversation, and also doing that pre-thing. Like me, before I post anything, I kind of do like, if I believe in it, I'm strongly, even like I know what it is, like I will never do intentionally post something that I know that's gonna hurt a community of people. Like, you know, so I have to kind of be aware. I'm going to put my opinion in it and say, this is why I'm posting this. You may not agree with me, but this is my opinion on it. But I
And
will
if
not.
somebody doesn't like that opinion,
And that's
they can
okay.
unfriend you. Or
Exactly.
they can just
Or
And
they
that's
can set a
okay.
boundary and say, I don't want to follow her anymore.
I know, literally, my husband said, you probably going to get canceled, Vanessa. I'm like, cancel me, people. Cancel me.
You don't want to cancel Vanessa. I feel like
Please don't cancel me.
as I'm growing into myself, you know, I'm 31. I have changed and evolved so much over the past 10 years. The things that I believed to be true, I no longer do. The things that I thought I had a strong conviction on, are changing. And so if we're held accountable for the one time we said one thing, we're canceled forever, that's that doesn't seem fair or compassionate. Let that person learn. Let that person call them in and say, hey, you must have not been educated about this. Can I teach you more about sexual assault and why that offended me?
Yeah.
And then let them have the opportunity to either change and evolve or say, hey, you know what, I am going to set a boundary. And then just there's no need to cancel.
I love that. And that's why I love with the Dr. Seuss, what happened, there was 6 books, I think, that were called off because some people felt like some of the content on it was racist. And what they did, at first, I think people said it's canceled, but they're not canceled. But they're like, hey, we understand that. We're going to go back to the drawing board here, you know, and fix that. Like giving them that chance to be like, we didn't know, because back then it was different time.
Yeah.
It was different. So I think giving people opportunity to be like Kevin Hart with the awards. He had old tweets. He's a comedian, so he probably posts a lot of things that were offensive to people. So giving him the chance to be like, I've grown. Like I was freaking 19 years old when I post this.
Yeah.
Like so I'm not that, like we should be able to look at somebody and be like, your old tweet that you said 10 years ago and where you at now shouldn't determine where you at right now.
Yeah.
I
you
think
know?
also you have to remember, like, times are changing. Like, there was a time when racism was prevalent.
It was.
And, like, right now, everything is really heavy on like women empowerment. And so like some things I say now, maybe in 10 years, someone's going to call me out and say, hey, that's sexist. Blah, blah, blah. But okay, but back then, I felt really empowered being a woman. And so that was the time. Yeah. But I can evolve now and say, okay, it's not that way anymore. But like history is evolving. Changing. Like you have to remember that.
And don't change the history because that's really what it was. And that led to where we are today. Like we have to have those past experiences for us to grow from.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, where was it? Like I was thinking even right now, it's very common in our culture to eat meat, but as more and more people are learning about plant-based, who knows? Like we could enter, especially with like what's happening in the environment, we could enter 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, society could become more plant-based, and then it's like, oh my gosh, your grandparents ate meat?
Yeah. But people still already starting to do that.
You know what I mean? But then, like, are we going to change history and erase that, or cancel that because we don't want people to know about this offensive thing that we did in the past? Or is it like, that's what we did. People back then had no idea. That's what they thought at that time. We still love them. They did a lot of good, even though they were disgusting meat eaters back then.
Right.
And we're gonna move on and continue
still love my
on.
meat.
Yeah, like people are trying to only cancel people, but cancel history. And I'm like, there are different seasons in time that different ideas were prevalent. Right now, there's a lot of women empowerment. Last night, I went on a rampage posting, empower women, empower women. In 10 years, is someone going to retweet that and be like, she's a sexist?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I feel like empowered women empower women.
Yeah.
Like,
I think with history, like I said, we need to remember history. I think a lot of history is ugly. Think of the things that have happened. It's ugly, but we have to educate our children. I don't think we should forget those things that had happened. Yeah. I think we just need to educate our children of the right history, what it was, and then how to move on forward to be better.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it should be like, when I think of racism, I don't think it should be like, well, it happened, let's put it away, we don't want to talk about it anymore. No, we need to educate because the world is changing. Like, it's a diverse world. Like I said, you say you have Colombian, like it's a beautiful thing, and your children gonna keep expanding in that. I am Haitian, and my children carry that blood, and they may grow up marry somebody else outside of the race, and so that diversity is beautiful, and we need to teach, like, yes, there was some ugliness, and we're not gonna shut it and put it away. We're gonna learn about it. We're gonna learn from it, and we're gonna learn, and from that learning, we're gonna educate to be better.
I love
it.
One of the things that I think that before we criticize somebody, we should look inward and see what our motivation with that criticism is. Why do we feel like we need to criticize them? Do we feel like we have a moral obligation to stand up and tell them what they said is wrong? Or is it just a personal thing where we're like, I don't like what they said, I don't agree with it, so I'm going to criticize them and tell them. I just think that we need to introspect a lot more than we do. I think we're really nosy. We like to know other people's business. And then when somebody doesn't agree with us, we've got this whole culture now where we're like, we don't like what you say, I have something I can do about it. And we blame them instead of looking inward first, introspecting, why do I want to criticize them? And then offering the criticism.
And then we'll even like lump, like you said this, therefore I'm going to assume because you said this, then that means you probably believe this, 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 and this, and this.
So many
and
assumptions.
Therefore I'm judging you as all of this when like they said this one thing, ask more questions, help better understand that person and where they're coming from. They may not actually believe all the things that you're assuming they are just because they voted for this person or said this one thing.
Yeah, and I think that's what's happening. We stuck into like believing in one thing because like and that's why I hate the one side, two side, because there's something on that side that I'm just like, no, and there's something on that side I'm like, no, but that doesn't make it that I'm like, because I agree with that one thing, I am different, I'm this person, you awful, and it's just like, no, give people a chance to explain why, because also our experiences where we grew up, our environment play a key to that. The people that we're around play a key to what we believe, so you have to know somebody before you start attacking them. Giving that accountability. I think somebody in our Instagram said you should call accountability culture.
I love
like
that.
Hold people accountable. Like I love that. Call people in. Like especially if you have that closeness with them, call them in. Like, hey, and don't do it like attack. Like I keep saying this, opinions are great, share your opinions. But when your opinions become hurtful to people, it is no longer an opinion. It is an attack. Yeah. And so we should try to really not to attack people.
Yeah.
And I loved our Instagram yesterday, or I guess this is going to air later, but we had a whole Instagram conversation where hundreds of you commented and talked about cancel culture, told us what your thoughts and ideas were on it, and we loved it.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
joined in for the conversation, and we would love more of that. So comment, tell us on our Instagram, tell us here on YouTube. Join our conversation. Tell us what you think about cancel culture. Have you experienced it personally? Do you know somebody who experienced it? What do you think about it? Share it with us.
Yeah,
Thank you
and-
for joining our brave conversation.
Yeah, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell notification so you don't miss our next episode.
Ready for more? Click on the next video for more brave conversations.
And if you have more topics that you'd like us to discuss, leave your suggestions below. We'd love to hear from you.
See you next week.
I have some questions for you. Hey, brave girl.